Hello my friends, this is the forgotten and much ignored GeForce 6600, forgotten because its bigger brother, the GT version, is a way more capable card. How and why, we're going to see right now. This video card was released in 2004, being part of the GeForce 6000 series, a series that made Nvidia rose from the ashes. The 6600 was positioned as a mainstream product, having a release price of $150. The price of this card was honest, so I'll give it a 4 out of 5 for pricing. I'll give it a 5 out of 5 for availability because it was released for both AGP and PCI Express and you could find it anywhere. Even I had a 6600 AGP and I lived in the middle of nowhere. The card supported the latest DirectX version 9.0C and shader model 3.0. Which was a pretty big deal back then, especially in discussions and forum wars. More on this later. It had the NV43 chip clocked at 300 MHz and DDR memory clocked at 500 MHz, which resulted in 8 GB of memory bandwidth. Not so great, the frequencies for the chip and memory were lowish, but we need to do the good testing in order to gauge its performance. For testing, I'm going to use the following components: a Pentium 4 Prescott clocked at 3.2 GHz, released in 2004, which was a fast CPU back then, fast for a Pentium 4. The best Pentium 4 had 3.8 GHz. A Gigabyte P35 motherboard with 1 GB of DDR2 667 MHz dual channel memory added on top. And this Zalman cooler right here. The card gets hot, really hot, because it has a passive cooler. Ooh, shiny. Look at this. First, I have 24 degrees Celsius in the room. For those of you fine folks that don't know the normal scales, it's 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Second, after a few minutes of X2 the threat benchmarks, the card reached around 50 degrees with this Zalman cooler on top, or rather alongside. Yet another few minutes have passed, this time without the cooler, and the card reached 60 degrees, 20 degrees more, and although I don't have it on camera, a few days ago it reached 80 degrees, yikes. Silent video cards should not be a thing, unless you really know what you are doing. And yes, I've cleaned the card and applied new thermal paste, Arctic Silver MX4 for those interested. This card gets only 2 stars for the cooling solution, because although hot, it's dead silent. But don't keep it silent for long, because it's going to end up dead. Get it? Dead silent, silent dead. Let's see what this card is capable of. Like always, I'm starting with older games to see how the card fares in older titles, and if we're able to play those games at absurd resolutions, settings, anti-aliasing, anisotropic and company. After all, no one ever played only last generation games, right? I still remember buying a 6600 in 2005 and playing Mafia, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, Diablo 2 and others. Now, the game. Star Wars Jedi Outcast II was released in 2002, it was based on Quake 3's engine, although this game is more demanding than Quake. It uses OpenGL and at 1280 by 960 maximum settings, the game runs excellent. The card pulls 89 average FPS, 55 FPS 1% lows, and 42 FPS for the 0.1%. These values are not 100% accurate, as anything over 91 FPS was not recorded. Engine limitations. These results are not bad, and as you can see in the footage, the game sits at maximum 91 FPS all the time. One thing I did not realize until now is that these blasters have 2 fire modes, burst and single shot. If you use burst mode, the blaster bolts will fly all over the place. No precision whatsoever. However, if you shoot one at a time, its precision is through the roof. Someone should tell this to the clones. Also, another someone should add a warning sign here. Thanks. Feeling confident, I've added 4x anti-aliasing and 8x anisotropic, and yeah, the frame rate takes a huge dive. The average FPS drops to 61, the 1% lows to 28, while the 0.1% reaches unplayable levels, 22 FPS, so stutters. But performance is not everything, And no matter how well the game plays, the visuals of Jedi Outcast are astounding. The levels, the textures, the colors, and everything in between make for a very pleasing aesthetic. Blue, white, beige and red, that's it. Also, the visuals are clean. You are not bombarded with visual stimuli, with complicated shader effects. No sir. Clean and effective. Just look at these stairs. Simple and beautiful. Have you ever seen a more pleasing server room? And we also have some nice touches here. The servers are protected by a shield, which is invisible until you shoot it, and the blaster bolts are deflected from those shields. Using the in-game benchmark, we have 160 average FPS at 1280 by 960 high settings, and the game uses 95 MB of video memory, very close to the maximum of the card. Adding 8x anisotropic, the FPS drops to 120, which is still very good, and the video memory usage stays the same. Adding 4x anti-aliasing on top, the FPS drops to 60, less than half of the initial value. The video memory usage reaches 115 MB. And from what I've seen, this means that the game uses the entire video memory, so when using 4x AA, the VRAM of this card is not enough. Finally, decide for yourselves if the anti-aliasing and anisotropic are worth it. Anisotropic, as usual, has a huge impact on visuals. Anti-aliasing, well, on performance. Look at this. What do you guys think? Is anti-aliasing worth the performance drop? Jedi Outcast performance, 5 out of 5. Now, before anything, let me explain a little bit this new rating system. 5 out of 5 means playable FPS in that game, usually past 30 for most games without many stutters or FPS drops under 30, using close to maximum settings and a decent resolution from that period. A classic from 2003, Need for Speed Underground runs extremely bad. What? On a GeForce 6600? I finished this game on a GeForce 2 MX. Anyway, I'm using 1280 by 960, highest settings, because as you can see, the motion blur and light glow really give this game a sense of beauty and satisfaction. Not. They will be disabled, but before that, the card averages 29 FPS with 22 FPS for the 1% lows. The video memory sits at 50 MB, which is great. If you see both CPU 1 and CPU 2 being utilized, it's because the Pentium 4 has hyper-threading, but I'm sure that the virtual thread is not used at all, so it's a little misleading. After disabling light trails and motion blur, the performance stays the same, so not helping. But at least the game looks better. Observe how much cleaner the scene is. The game does not run that bad. After all, we have 30-40 FPS all the time, and I bet that the CPU is not helping either. The video memory usage decreased to 39 MB. But because this is some strange behavior after all, and because I hate VSync, by the way, VSync was enabled because if Underground goes past 60 FPS, the game starts moving faster and faster. Where was I? Yeah, I hate VSync because it makes some games stuttery, because it gives input lag, because. So I deactivated it, and here we go. Better frame rate. I did expect this because the game felt like it had the handbrake on. It felt chained somehow. And yeah, VSync was to blame. Now we have over 40 FPS all the time, reaching 60 or 70 from time to time. But it's not just about the frame rate. The game feels way smoother without VSync. And yes, I'm running both Fraps and MSI Afterburner, and yes, the performance impact is minimal, if any. Feeling confident about this computer's newfound hidden powers, I've activated 8x anisotropic. The frame rate hit is minimal. I did not notice any weird drops in performance, but I've noticed some improvements in texture quality. More on this a little later. However, adding 4x anti-aliasing is not easy on the card. The FPS returns to 30s and the game feels slow again. As you can see, we have 30 plus FPS after anti-aliasing compared to 50 plus before. Having said that, the game is very glossy. You might not notice AA and AF that much. So, are anti-aliasing and anisotropic worth it? Looking at the entire scene, anisotropic is noticeable, while anti-aliasing not quite. Looking closer, we can see some visual improvements. What do you think? Yay or nay? Five out of 5 for underground performance, without VSync. Colin McRae Rally 2005 is a game released in 2004. Good job naming the game. I was too confident in this video card's performance, and I've started with 1600 by 1200 highest settings and 25 FPS. At least the FPS is steady, 25-26 all the time. I've never seen such constant frame rate. Video memory usage sits at 60 MB. The performance is way better when moving to 1280 by 960. 40 plus FPS is decent for this game. The video memory usage almost dropped by half. But why? We have 4 textures: car, road, outside the road, trees. No people. You can't call these people. These are props. I've used medium settings, and the FPS is similar, around 50, compared to 45 at highest. Video memory usage stays the same. 4 out of 5 for the performance. It's a game from the same year, this is a mainstream card, and the game runs okay at decent settings. Let's move on to Far Cry. The GeForce 6600 supports the well-marketed Pixel and Vertex Shader 3.0, the next best thing since Pixel Shader 2, and Far Cry was one of the games that supported the latest version. It was a big deal in 2004, because the X100 series from ATI only supported Pixel Shader 2, while the 6000 series from Nvidia version 3, and people on the forums and in the schoolyard went crazy over this topic. Which is better, ATI or Nvidia? And one of the arguments in favor of Nvidia was the aforementioned shader version. But was it really? Without getting into too many details, I forced Pixel Shader 2 and 3 in Far Cry, and I did not notice any visual differences. See for yourselves. Yeah, nothing. I've run some benchmarks also, because using Pixel Shader 3 should give you a better performance, because it has dynamic branches and other code improvements. I had 0.5 FPS improvement and no noticeable visual improvements. Actually, even Crytek, the developer behind Far Cry, said that there were no visual improvements when using 3.0 compared to 2.0, only performance ones. By the way, when Nvidia showcased Far Cry with Pixel Shader 3.0, compared Far Cry with Pixel Shader 1.0 and said, look at the differences. Yeah, thank you. Going back to ATI versus Nvidia and Pixel Shader 3, by the time this technology became adopted and properly implemented in games, 2005 onwards, ATI had already released the X1000 series, which supported Pixel Shader 3.0. Just saying. Far Cry sits anywhere between 30 and 50 FPS while inside this factory, at 1280 by 960 medium settings. Far Cry is a demanding game, and it was released in the same year as the card. 40 FPS at these settings is quite good actually. Moving outside, we have the same FPS, 40 plus. Usually games run way worse outside, but not this one. Also, 82 MB of video memory at these settings is okay. Moving to high settings, we reach the video memory limit of the card. The FPS drops to low 20s. And so we find out what are the settings that we must use in Far Cry in order to have smooth gameplay on a GeForce 6600 Silent from Asus that's paired with a Pentium 4 Prescott clocked at 3.2 GHz, 1280 by 960 medium settings. But because we're never done with doing stupid things, I've added anti-aliasing and anisotropic. And the game took it pretty well. 16 average FPS, considering that I've tested the combat intensive area, is decent. I did not encounter too many stutters, and aiming the weapon feels decent. At the end I had 18 FPS average, 10 FPS 1% low, and 3 FPS 0.1% low. But I could finish the battle, there's that. Looking at the anti-aliasing and anisotropic visuals, we have this. The differences are not noticeable when looking at the entire scene, maybe for anisotropic only. But when looking closely, we can see something worthwhile. The card gets 3 out of 5 for Far Cry's performance.
Welcome to the dungeon, Marine.
The game runs pretty well at 1600 by 1200 medium settings, all advanced options on, and it uses only 70 MB of video memory. At this resolution, it's impressive, mainly because textures at low resolution don't look that good in Doom 3, but don't say this out loud. 30-40 FPS while moving through the room is decent, but it's clear that once things start heating up, the FPS will crumble. We're just at the beginning of the game now. As you can see, in the more demanding areas, we have under 30 FPS. That's why I've dropped to 1024 by 768 medium settings. Now this is something else, and I bet that these are the best settings for playing this game on this card. Memory usage goes up to 110 MB. No sudden drops when exploding stuff. Nice. And then the flashlight, our best friend when things go dark in this game, and this means always my friend. And now is where the game begins. I love this. One of the best scenes ever. Watch this, please.
No, please. You must let me get this communication out. They have to be warned while there is still time. I can't let...
I'm getting abnormal readings here. This is bad.
God!
I can't hold these levels. We're losing it!
Help us!
Identify something coming from all over the base.
All hell breaks loose, literally. This video card feels like a champion when using anti-aliasing and anisotropic in Doom 3, between 20 and 40 FPS, even during combat, pretty nice, not bad at all. This game always ran good on the GeForce 6000 series. This means that the card is bottlenecked by the CPU, but more on this, again, later. Until then, let's end this on a high note. Very high more exactly, at 1600 by 1200 anti-aliasing and anisotropic. This is just for show off. The game is not playable at all, and I did not expect it to be. Just like Underground, Doom 3 is a dark game. Anti-aliasing and anisotropic are not a must-have, although as you just saw, the card can do both. This GeForce deserves a 3 out of 5 performance rating in Doom 3. GTA San Andreas is another game released in 2004, and here the card outputs 30-40 FPS, which is not bad, but not good either. It's there. Considering that San Andreas runs at 30 FPS on consoles, the game should feel okay, decent, fine. I am playing at 1280 by 960 highest settings, and the game uses only 67 MB of video memory. We reach 60 FPS by using low settings, because in this game the grass uses a lot of resources, and it's useless also, you're better off without it. Every special effect is low now, except for that pesky motion blur. We really need a separate option for that in all games. Thanks developers, the gameplay is smooth and the FPS always stays between 40 and 60. The card gets a 4 out of 5 for performance in San Andreas, because the grass performance issue is a known fact. Can't hold it against the card.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Wanting to challenge this wonderful Star Wars game, I've decided to use 1600 by 1200 highest settings, but the card can push so many frames, 20 or lower more exactly, and this map is not even that demanding. We have the units, the snow, the weapons, and that's it. The game uses 70 MB of video memory. Moving to 1024 by 768 still highest settings, we reach playable levels of 30 plus FPS, and these are the settings to use in this game with this video card. .1280 by 960 highest settings, 4x anti-aliasing and 8x anisotropic, and after a few minutes of gameplay we have 17 average FPS, 10 FPS for both 1% and 0.1% lows. But this is to be expected, we have a lot of things going on the screen, explosions, 200 units, vehicles, buildings, lights and others. However, I'll give the card a 3 out of 5 for performance in Battlefront 2 2005. The game uses only 85 MB of video memory, which is impressive for a game from 2005. Anti-aliasing and anisotropic are clueless and useless in this game. The visual differences are close to none. Have a look. And then we have Fear. Released in 2005, this game was extremely demanding for its time, so let's see how the card does its job. Pretty well, I would say. 32 average FPS during combat is not bad, although 10 FPS for the 1% low is not good either. Even the video memory is not that high, only 95 MB. 2 out of 5 for Fear performance. Use 1600 by 1200 high settings and the card is dead on arrival. But is the GeForce 6600 bottleneck by the Pentium 4 Prescott? Let's see by using a better CPU, a Core2 Duo E6600. Here is a direct comparison, and yeah, the Core2 doubles the performance on the GeForce 6600. Here's your answer, the Pentium 4 heavily bottlenecks this GeForce card. All metrics, be it average, minimum and maximum FPS, are double on the Core2. Now, this card wasn't the only card available on the market in 2004, obviously, but what about it? In 2004, for the same price, $150, you could get a Radeon 9600 XT, another amazing video card. The GeForce 6600 GT had a price of $200. Quake 2 is here only to showcase that in this game, the Radeon is faster than the GeForce. That's all. Oh, and the 6600 GT has almost double the performance, but this is a game from 1997. Let's move to greener pastures. And greener pastures indeed. Serious Sam the Second Encounter was released in 2002, an amazing game both visually and in regards to gameplay. The GeForce 6600 is 60% faster than the Radeon 9600 XT when looking at the average FPS, and 70% when comparing the 1% lows. Still, 55 1% lows are very good. You'll have smooth gameplay no matter what card are you using. The GT version on the other hand is 50% faster than the normal 6600 for average FPS and 1% lows. The GT can do crazy numbers, I'll tell you that. X2 The Threat was released in 2003, and here the Radeon and the GeForce are tied for average FPS, and both have kinda low FPS. 38 is not good for average in a game from 2003. A big surprise comes in Half-Life 2 Lost Coast, where the Radeon is a little faster than the GeForce 6600. Fancy that. I knew that Radeons were faster in Half-Life than the GeForce cards, but I did not expect this difference between generations. The GT version is way faster than the 6600, 70% for average FPS and 70% for the 1% lows. Now, you tell me if the $50 difference between the cards was worth paying. In fear, the 6600 is faster than the Radeon 9600 XT by a hefty 70%, and it also has no drops under 25 FPS, while the Radeon has half of its frames lower than 25. The 6600 GT on the other hand is 70% faster than the normal version, which again is crazy. Crazy because there should not exist such a difference between GT and non-GT versions of the same video card. Looking at all the tests, we can see that the GeForce 6600 has 37% more performance in total, compared to the Radeon 9600, one of the mainstream champions of 2003. On the other hand, the 6600 GT has 31 more performance than the 6600. Although to be honest, if we remove the Quake 3 and Return to Castle Wolfenstein tests, where things seem a little weird, the GT is 51% faster. Basically, the 6600 is half the 6600 GT. That's it, I'll let you guys enjoy the video cards leaderboards. The 6600 that I've tested now has a green tint. I'll stop only if needed. And it's needed, yeah. The GeForce 3 Ti 200 is faster than the 6600 in Quake 2. Let's move on. The FX 5900 XT is way faster than the 6600 in MDK2. Older games seem to be enjoying older cards. The 6600 has some crazy results in Return to Castle Wolfenstein, all settings and resolutions. But this seems to me that I'll need to redo the tests. Something is off here. This was it, guys, the GeForce 6600, a mainstream card from 2004 that lived in the shadow of its faster alternative, the 6600 GT, which was only $50 more expensive, but in newer games brought hefty performance improvements. Thank you all for watching.